Welcome to Leadership and Nation Building with Modede. And our focus today is leadership. We're looking at the question of repositioning for national impact and influence. Leadership repositioning and for national impact and influence. And the focus is representation and diplomacy in all worlds. By the way, I'm the CEO of Flying Eye Consulting, which we are involved in leadership development across all boards. Within governments, we consult with governments, we develop staff engagement, we develop leaders, we train, and we consult as well. So please do join us on this program on a consistent basis as we come to your media. Now today our focus is repositioning, but the first thing I want to talk about is what is leadership itself. What is leadership? Because when you do not define terms, you cannot actually use them. And I was sharing with a few people a few weeks back that Sheryl Sandberg of the Harvard Business School said, leadership is about making others better as a result of your presence and making sure that impact lasts in your absence. That means leaders are people that leave an impact that when even they're not there, the impact is still working in their absence. So leaders are people that make others better as a result of their presence, that even when they are absent, yet what they left with you is still working with you. Another person said, Jonathan Bynes said, leaders are people who leave their footprints in the areas of passion. That means leadership requires you to be passionate. By the way, whatever you're not passionate about, why should I follow you about it? So leaders are people that have discovered their passion. You're supposed to live from your passion. Passion is desire stronger than death. And that's why leaders are people that find something that they're willing to die for. So I want to ask you the question, have you found that thing that you're willing to die for? A lot of people in our world today who are called leaders or in leadership position are only willing to live. Hence, true leaders are very, very absent or very short in our world today. Nelson Mandela was a man that was ready to die for the cause that he started off for in the prison. And he did say to him when they allowed him a release, he said, I'd rather die in this prison than go from here and still go to the same cause and my people are not free. So leaders are always passionate people. Peter Drucker, another leadership consultant, said the only definition of a leader is someone who has followers. Leadership always commands followership, but how do you command that followership? What are they following in you? Warren Bennis, a leadership consultant in the United States, said, leadership is a capacity to translate vision into reality. Leaders are people who walk by vision. They are visionaries. Their destination is what is leading them. They are not people that live in the present. They are people that live in the future. They are people that promise you hope in the midst of darkness. They are people that take us from our present, unknown present, but taking us to an unknown future, but always a better place. So leadership is always being able to work with vision, but not just vision, but vision into reality itself. So vision is very important to leadership because really vision is what starts leadership. Bill Gates said this. He said, as we look into the next century, leaders will be those who empower others. We need leaders that doesn't only create an organization, a community, or a business with a leader, but creating an environment that creates leaders. You want a place where everyone is taking personal responsibility. Leaders are people who take responsibility for their own area. So we want a nation, we want a people, we want a context of people that actually raise leaders, empower others to take responsibility of their own personal areas. We need a world. We need a context of a world where we have men and women who take responsibility for our world. Now you got to understand the context of our leadership development today. We're looking at the context of the third world, especially. Now, there's two things. Third world is a location, third world is also a mindset. So even in the Western world, we have third world mindset existing. However, my focus today is more of the leadership development in the third world location in Africa, for example. So we need men and women, again, that will rise up. We need leaders, political leaders that will empower men, that will mentor, that will have a succession program in order to develop a nation so that there'll be continuity in whatever they do. John Maxwell said this. He said leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Leadership always requires a capacity to influence. Now, where the John Maxwell definition is a bit short is that to what end? Because I could put a gun to your head and influence you negatively, and it becomes a manipulation. But leadership always requires influence. I got to influence you to do something. Leadership is always going to be influencing you either for followership, influence you to submit your resources or your time or your vote, for example. Kevin Cruz says, leadership is a process of social influence which maximizes the effort of others towards the achievement of a goal. Leadership will always have to maximize the effort of others, because once leadership captures a vision, it needs other people's efforts, it needs other people's skills. Leadership should know how to bring a people together in order for us to achieve a goal. But I say, J.D. Modede says, the leadership is the discovery of self and impacting your world with your discovered self. My take is that whatever you have not discovered about yourself, you cannot use to impact your world. Until you discover yourself, your purpose for existing, you got to understand, why am I existing? So purpose is very important, because without purpose, you cannot do anything. And once people do not know the reason for the existence of things, people are political leaders. If you don't know the reason why you're in that political office, you don't know why you are the CEO of that company, you don't know why you are the head of that family, you don't understand the purpose of a thing, then you will abnormally use it. That is why today there's a lot of abuse in our world. Abuse of system, abuse of power, abuse of resources. Hence, leadership requires self-discovery, and it starts with the discovery of purpose for your life. Now, today, I want us to look at, the presence of leadership. The presence of leadership is supposed to do something in our world today. And hence, we need to discover and we need to develop proper and impactful leadership. Leadership presence must actually be evident with impact. When leadership is present, either in our world, in our governments, in our community, in our businesses, there must be impact, there must be influence, and there must be result. Leadership always come back with results. There must always be results. That is where we're going to. There must be something that we're working towards. But there must be impact. There must be a change. There must be influence. You must be able to carry people along. So our focus today is, number one, leadership repositioning. Leadership repositioning. Now we got to understand positioning, especially around leadership, because one, position, what is it? Is where someone or something is located. Where is our leadership located? Positioning is an attitude or a mental state as well. So leadership positioning or repositioning comes with the attitude. You got to understand as well that leadership has got to do with attitude. 80% of leadership has got to do with attitude, and 20% with skills. So people focus more on the skills, while the attitude of leadership, which is more important, is not really a focus in our world today. So where are you positioned in your mentality, in your thinking? Because position has got to do with thinking, irrespective of where you are physically or where you are, because you could be wrongly positioned. So leadership has got to do with positioning, especially with your attitude, where you are, either physically or, in your thinking. Position is also a standpoint. So when we begin to talk about leadership repositioning, is leadership standpoint. What do you stand for? What do you represent? So true leadership needs to be positioned by true vision. Can I say that again? True leadership needs to be positioned by true vision, which is captured for it to influence and have positive impact. True leadership needs true vision. It needs to stand on true vision, because where vision is void, or where there's no vision, then the people cast off restraint. A world void of vision and visionaries will definitely have leadership out of position. A lot of leaders leadership is out of position today because it lacks vision. My question to a lot of nations, a lot of countries, leaders in countries, heads of states, presidents, heads of businesses, community leaders, is what is the vision for your assignment? What is the vision for the country? A country without a vision is a country where it's going nowhere. The people do not know where they're going. So their stand cannot be predicted. Hence, there's no guarantee to the benefit to humanity itself. To what benefit is what you're doing? A lot of things people call vision today, they're not visions, they're called programs, they're called manifestos. A manifesto, a program, an objective is not a vision. So with nations with vision, we need to wake up and know that we're truly going somewhere, because your journey in life is defined by the location where it's going. Where are we going as a country? Africa as a continent. Nations, countries there, Nigeria, Ghana, Zimbabwe, South Africa, Burundi, Tanzania, Rwanda, and the nations, many countries in the continent. But what is the vision of the country? Because this is what determines the quality of leadership that we have there. We need leaders with a safe and sound ideological stand that has been proven and tested through times as well, because true leadership cannot represent an ideology that it does not believe and it's not tested with proof as well. What is your ideology? Because we got to know. And is it proof? Is there any proof of it? Is it tested? Leadership must be willing to give up itself for a noble cause to make impact. A lot of leadership today We don't know what they're willing to give up for. We don't know what they're willing to give up. A lot of leaders are not willing to give up anything. What are you willing to give up? Giving up self is freedom to properly represent an ideology. We need leaders who are willing to give up themselves. A lot of leaders today are only there to empower, to enrich, and for their own self-ambition. So there's a great quest for leadership in our world today. Why is that? Because leadership is the number one need of the 21st century world. Leadership is the number one need of the 21st century world. Our communities need quality leaders. Our companies, our organizations, our institutions, our religious organizations, our families needs quality leadership. Why? Because the quality of your life is dependent on the quality of leadership that it has. Your life needs leadership. Whatever is leading you will determine what your life is going to be like. Why is that? Number two, leadership determines what happens in our world today. Whatever becomes of our world today, whatever becomes of our organization, our communities, is dependent on the kind of leadership that he has in place. That is why today there's a lot of craze. You can check online, you can check on the news today. CNN, is always talking about Donald Trump. Why is that? Because he's the leader of the free world. He's the leader of the United States of America. So whatever he says, whatever move, wherever he goes, affects the entire nation, affects the reputation, affects the economy, affects who wants to go there, affects who wants to deal with them, because the leadership determines everything. Another point is this: leadership is responsible for providing solution in our world. All our nations, all our organizations, all our communities are in need of solution. In fact, everything on earth provides a solution. It's supposed to provide solution. As well, leaders are responsible for providing solutions to our world. Our countries, our continents, our nations are in trouble, and we need leaders that can solve the problem. Hence, we need good representation in leadership. So representation, what is representation? Because we're looking at leadership repositioning, and we're talking about representation and diplomacy in all worlds. Representation is acting on behalf of someone else. So we need leaders that is able to act on behalf of the community, act on behalf. Leaders that are models, leaders who are examples, leaders who are image of exactly what we want our community, our lives to be like. So it's not an error when we begin to say, we need leaders who can show us the way. Leaders who have seen a picture, who have seen a dream, who have got a glimpse of a future, and they come back and tell us about, what they've seen, and we believe them. Impact as well means to affect, it means to change, it means to transform, it means to shape in or to have an effect on. So we need leaders who can bring a change in our community, who can bring change in our lives, leaders that can transform our present into a better future, leaders that can shape in our world, shape in our environment, leaders that have a positive effect on our situation. True leadership must be a model or a true likeness, as well, exhibiting, true character, leadership with character, with values, with morals as well. That's the kind of leadership our world is looking for. So the quality this quality of leadership is required in all worlds. To do what? To affect, to change, to transform, to shape in, and having positive effects on things, on people, on our environment, or even on our assignments. That's the quality of leadership that our world is looking for today. Our world needs leadership that will represent the interest of the people. Number one. We need leaders that will represent the interest of the people, not just represent their own personal agenda. A lot of leaders today who are voted in by the people, who are supposed to be serving the people, only represent their own personal interest, and that has become such a shame to our society. That has become a problem to our world. That has put a lot of our countries in captivity, so to speak. We need leaders that represent the truth. A lot of leaders today stand before cameras and they lie to the people. They manipulate the people. They bribe the people. They let the people sell their future based on lies. We need leaders that will promote natural and divine laws. I listen to leaders that take decision over countries, and I hear them speak. I was listening to some of the decisions being made in the United Kingdom sometimes ago by the Parliament, when the Parliament decided to pass a law that actually goes against natural laws. And once you violate natural laws, you begin to self-disintegrate. And this is what happens. So we need leaders that are able to promote natural and divine laws. I was listening to the Prime Minister as well, the past Prime Minister, David Cameron, and he was saying, well, to truly develop our country again is going to be dependent on we having strong families. And they just passed a law that actually breaks down the family unit. How does that work? So we need leaders that actually will represent and promote natural and divine laws. We need leaders that enhance human value. Whatever leaders do, it must make lives of people better. It must take people from poverty level and to a better place. It must actually make people better. It must create opportunities for people. It must be all about people. Leaders must always work with people and actually give value to human life. We need proper representation with leaders. You need, and leaders will be true representatives or act on behalf of others in representation. So we need leaders that represent the interest of the people, leaders that actually represent the truth, leaders, oh God, that actually as well stand for what do you call it now? Divine laws and natural laws, not violate them. Leaders that will advance human value. Representation. Our world needs leaders that represent, number one, the interest of the people. The leaders that we have in place today in our organization, our communities, in our business, in our governments, needs to represent the interest of the people, because leaders are servants. They're not there to lord it over the people. Leaders that will represent the truth. Leaders that will promote natural and divine laws. We don't want leaders that take decisions that violate natural laws, because when you violate natural laws, you self-destruct. So we need leaders that will stand for the truth and also represent natural laws. When leaders begin to take decisions, I was listening to the Parliament in the United Kingdom sometimes ago discussing on the issue of marriage and same-sex, and I listened to some part of the discussion, and some people said this is out of our jurisdiction. I don't even know why we're discussing this. So we need leaders that will not violate natural laws, but that will promote natural laws and divine laws, or else we put our communities and nations into trouble. We need leaders that will represent, that will enhance human value, not dehumanize people. So the laws and the policies we pass must actually enhance the value of humans. So people, we need to be very careful, especially when we now begin to look at leadership or choose leaders or actually call people leaders. There's some keys that we need for representation or for leaders to be able to be good representatives. And these are things that we all need. Number one, we need quality knowledge. Leaders are generally learners. And let me tell you something. Everyone is born a leader. But the leader in you will come out the more you begin to learn, because your learning is what forms your thinking process, and your thinking process is what forms your belief system. But your belief system is what produces your attitude. So your knowledge base is so important to your attitude. So one of the keys for representation, or for good leadership representation as well, is positive attitude. We need leaders that have positive attitude. The way you respond to life issues. Do you have leaders that actually respond positively to issues of life? We need leaders who are mentors, not just users. A lot of leaders today don't produce leaders. We need leaders that can be observed, that can be good examples for the young ones, for emerging leaders. And that is why today we have the same set of people ruling, controlling our industries, our governments. We see leaders that sit in governance for 40, 50 years, 30 years, 20 years, the same set of leaders. I've grown up, in the context of a country whereby the same set of leaders who were there when I was in school, in secondary school, in high school, in university, the same set of people still controlling the country. That means there's no leadership in the country, or leadership is no mentoring, or there's no succession rather. Also, keys for representation is we need continuous learning. Leaders must be people that are glued to learning. Leaders must be people also that have self-discovery and awareness of what is happening around them in their own lives. We need leaders who have accountability. You cannot be a leader without accounting to someone else. Leaders need accountability. Leaders need to be aware of the environment and have a good knowledge of the market as well. Our markets around us, the market, what is going on even in our own community, around the nations of the world, to make quality decisions. So also the second part of this discussion is diplomacy. the skill of managing, relations, with people, or handling relationships or handling people. Leaders must be diplomatic. We need leadership with diplomatic skills. In diplomacy, diplomacy can also be looked at as a skill of managing international relations by countries represented abroad. How do we manage relations with other countries? We need leaders that is able to represent us both locally and internationally. Leaders that can represent our communities everywhere they go. It's what we call people management. Leaders need to be a model for how we relate and deal with people in every sector of life. Not looking down on others, not seeing some people as being better than the other. So we need leadership that is diplomatic. Diplomacy in leadership is very important because every sector of life needs men and women that are good representatives that can speak out for the benefit of humanity. Men that will speak out for the benefit of others. Because leadership needs the heart of dealing with people in a sensitive and effective way. Not just, abusing people, not just using people, not using derogatory words as well. You see, leaders in some situations, they see themselves as better, than other people. That's not true leadership. Impactful leadership needs to be sensitive to the needs of the people to influence our world. Impactful leadership needs to be sensitive to the needs of all, either black, white, whatever race you are. Leadership needs to be sensitive to that. Leadership must be skilled in dealing with people because leadership has always got to do with people. Leadership always have to deal with people, so it must be skilled in dealing with people. Diplomacy is maintaining good relations between, governments of different countries. Most of our leaders today, especially in government, I see some of the things they do, and leaders just bring in other nations, other people into their country without actually knowing where they're coming from, the culture, where they're coming from, and they impose those people on their own communities, bring in people with different agenda without thinking it through. How does it affect our own community? We need leaders that are able to actually think through some of these things. So there's a need for leadership diplomacy. To maintain a peaceful world, we need leaders that are able to actually manage this relationship. To allow for creating a better world for mankind, we need leadership diplomacy. To allow for releasing the potential of other nations in our own nations or local nations, we need leadership diplomacy. So leadership influences and empowers people. Leadership must be positioned rightly for maintaining good relationship with people and the betterment of humanity. Leadership must always be taking us to a better place. It might be unknown. Nobody might say the leader might be the only one that paints a picture, but we will not remain in the same place. And that is why we got to understand that leadership needs to have a standpoint that actually enhances value of humanity. Leadership that takes a people from where they are to where is better might be unknown to them. Diplomacy will involve fitting, and managing this relationship between people, between nations, between environments and things like that. But today, I want us to please continue to look at the topic of leadership and understand that leadership positioning is very, very vital. Leadership representation as well is vital to our world. What is your standpoint as a leader? Where you stand determines your leadership. Who do you stand? Do you stand for the truth? Do you represent the interests of the people as well? Leadership orientation is very important as well. Do you always think leaders around you, or do you think leader that lords it over people? Do you see other people in your position? Do you create the platform for other people as well to be able to come up to where you are? Leadership empowers others. So leadership diplomacy, leadership repositioning is so important in the world that we live in. Why? Because everything is determined by leadership. So we need leaders that is going to fight for the right of people. Our world is in urgent need of leadership rightly positioned, representing the best interest of our world with effective management of people to effect continually positive change. Can I say that again? Our world is in urgent need of leadership that is rightly positioned, mostly in attitude, representing the best interest of our world. The leadership in our world today, is it representing the best interest, or are we only looking at the short term? And effective management of people. Effective management of people is so vital to leadership to effect a continual positive change in our world. So therefore, leadership is a corporate course, is a corporate commitment to a cause. The result is that people submit to you as a corporate entity and they make you a leader. In fact, leadership is not a pursuit. Leadership is a result of the many things that we do. Can I start again? Leadership One must inspire, leadership must influence, and leadership must be passionate. All these qualities always attract followership. This is where I'm going to pause today on a leadership and nation building. Leadership is required to build a nation. Until we come back to you again. And can I just use this opportunity to invite you? Our wisdom class I run, with the community on Wednesdays. And I'll be inviting you into that wisdom class again. We've been looking at the leadership in the context of self-discovery. I think we started last week, and now we're going to go into the area, begin to talk about purpose as well. We'll send you an invite, to that class. It's called the wisdom class, and we'll be looking at self-discovery, and we're looking at the subject of purpose. However, till we come back your way again, it is JD Modede bringing you leadership and nation building. God bless you.